Take note, Star Wars. This is how you do it right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Reign of Horror, and I just got home from seeing Creed. Yeah, here's a funny thing. Remember how I said that Star Wars came out 2 days before it came out in the US? The movie came out today. Here, Creed. Creed came out today here. Well, for you guys, it came out. For any of you guys in the US, I suppose, it came out last month. That pisses me off, because really, I really wanted to see this film, and instead of waiting 2 days like you guys, I had to wait an entire month. And it's not like the Rocky franchise isn't well known; it's very well known. But I'm getting off topic here. So, before I begin, I should tell you a few things. 1. When I walked into this film, my expectations were mixed. On the one hand, I have not seen that many Rocky films. In fact, I've only seen 2. Rocky 1, obviously, and Rocky Balboa. Yeah, the first and the 6th film in the series. So why did I specifically watch those? Well, the first one, you have to watch the first one, basically, if you're going to watch the Rocky films. And Balboa, I caught it on TV once, and I decided to watch it. And if you want my opinions on them, I love them. They're fantastic films. Of course, the first one is the best, but I love the dynamic in the theme and the dynamic in Rocky Balboa. I love the emotion that you get out of that one. And now the second thing, my initial opinions before I go into spoiler territory. It's great, or I might be exaggerating a bit. It's really good. It's not I don't think it's as good as Rocky Balboa, and by extension the first one. But I will say this: it's not bad. It's not a bad film, and I can definitely say that if you're gonna go, if you haven't watched Creed yet, do it. It's a very good film. You don't need to watch any of the other Rocky films to know exactly what happened. There are references to the other films, particularly to Apollo's life and a bit of Rocky's, but overall, you don't really need to see it. I mean, I vaguely remember the movie's plot lines, and I will talk about that a little bit afterwards. But to put it this way, I really liked it. I would definitely recommend that you go see it. Now, let's talk about the plot. Or let's talk a little bit about the theme here, because this film really, if you look at the poster, you really kind of know what the movie is really about. It's about Adonis, Apollo Creed's son, and Rocky Balboa, because both of them are in this film, as you can tell, and the movie is mostly about them. I mean, it's mostly about Adonis, but it's also heavily on Rocky. I'll try to somewhat. So what I really like about this film, though, is this: it's very. It can actually get you very emotionally invested in these characters. You know, when I got into this film, I had heard something about this film being a bit of a copy of the first one. Not to the extent that Star Wars was, but to a certain degree. But to me, I was, but to me, I didn't really see that with this film. It's like Rocky was a guy who really came from nowhere, who just wanted to, go the distance a little bit. He didn't want to be the absolute best, but he wanted to go the distance. Adonis, on the other hand, comes from a troubled childhood, having a father who not only conceived him from an affair, but he also died before he had a chance to even meet him. And his mom died as well, so he had been to be in nurseries and juvie and all that. And he grew up not knowing anything, but he had a desire to fight like him. But when he realized who his father really was, he also wanted to distance himself from his own father. That, sure, he knows and he wants to know about him, but he doesn't want to let this be his career. And I think a lot of that's actually something I see a lot of, that people are a bit afraid of. With this is purely speaking from from a fan of wrestling. I see this a lot in wrestling, that people are often scared the most for second or third generation superstars, because they think that the legacy that they have is just going to overshadow their career. And in some cases they do, but in other cases they shine true. Things can shine true. And I'm not sure. I don't know much about sports in general, but I'm sure there must be some kind of case where the son or daughter of a particular sports star decided to go into the sport themselves. And I really like that but that's one of the problems I have with the film. I felt like they rushed it a little bit. They rushed the conflict of there's a point in, because he uses the name Adonis Johnson at first, because he doesn't really want to be associated with Creed. However, when the public finds out that his name is Creed, a promoter wants to give him a match with the reigning lightweight champion, but in order to sell tickets, they want him to use the name Creed. If he doesn't, then there's no fight. And I felt like they went through that a bit fast. I felt like they could have had a little bit more time, just have him think about it a little bit more, and add a bit to it. I felt like they rushed it a little bit, and I felt like they didn't really show that even after he agreed to it, that he decided that he wanted to do it, that he was still uncomfortable with it, which would have made the later scene even more powerful. Because there's a scene I am in spoiler territory now, if you couldn't tell. So yeah. There's a scene later where he's at his girlfriend's concert or something. I think that's the thing. And he comes into a confrontation with a guy who with the boss there, and he calls him Baby Creed. And that really gets on his nerves. But he also and he punches him out. But it also hurts him because of the fact that right beforehand he learned that Rocky has cancer and he's not going to take the treatment. But so yeah, that's one problem I have with the film. But I do like the fact that they also teach this lesson that make your own legacy, but even if you do but don't ignore the legacy. The legacy that came before you. That's actually a brilliant thing. I really love that about the film. That it teaches you that, sure, you, here's the thing, you are Creed's son. You can't ignore that. But you should make your own. You shouldn't. I think there's a point there in saying that. I know you want to know him. There's a line in the beginning that Apollo Creed's wife says that. Oh, it really kind of worked for this one. That she doesn't want him to be him, but he can sort of have his. I don't remember the quote, but basically telling that you're Creed's son, but you don't have to be like him just because you are. Basically, don't ignore the past, but you can make your own but it doesn't have to influence your decisions. I really do like that. But let's get to the other big thing in this film. Rocky. Rocky is the guy who's supposed to train this guy, and his performance in this film is Sylvester Stallone's performance in this film is excellent. I love he really falls into this trainer role really well, and it really feels like he hits the form really good, really well. There's a lot of scenes where he really has me emotionally invested, and every time he's very old-fashioned, but he's old-fashioned in a way that works. It leads to some joke, but it also leads to some heartfelt moments that he knows from experience how to handle these situations. And I really like that about him. He also has some of the most emotional scenes in the film. For example, there's a scene where he goes to the graveyard to me, and we see he has a rose in his hand. And for those of you who watched Rocky Balboa, you know that his wife Adrian is dead. So he goes there to speak to her. And we also find out that, sadly, Paulie is also dead. And that does suck. Because, you know, I really like Paulie. But I knew it was probably gonna happen. So, and he just sits down there and just talks to them and tells them about the news today. And that's really one of the most powerful scenes, because it really shows that nowadays Rocky really has no one in his life, really. I mean, his wife is dead, his trainer is dead, his friend is dead, his brother-in-law is dead, his son has moved to Vancouver with his girlfriend. He barely hears from her anymore. And yeah, and then, as I mentioned, he is diagnosed with cancer later on in the film, and he doesn't want to get treatment. As he says, he basically doesn't have anything more to live for, so when he finally stops, he's going to let it happen. He's not going to try to resist it. That's one of the most gripping things about his character in this film. He has no one in his life up until Creed shows up, Adonis shows up. I know he takes on the name Creed, but I usually just call him Adonis because that's his first name. Just like I call Apollo Creed in the first film Apollo, as that's their name. And really, Adonis is the only guy in this film who really gives Rocky anything to really go for. And there's a good line at the final fight of the fight of this fight where he says that you gave me the fight, you gave me the chance to fight. I'm gonna keep fighting, but you gotta keep fighting as well. Which is basically what what Adonis said to him earlier in the film. And I love that they both understand each other now. And even though Rocky's in a weakened state, he's willing to just keep going. Because he has some new purpose in life now. And Balboa, it was kind of like in Balboa. He kind of went to the same arc where he had to have something to live by again. You know, sort of have this one last hurrah for himself. And while I think it was far better better done in Balbo. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's been a long day. The dynamic in this film is also really good, and really, I stand by I stand by that this film does tug on my heartstrings a bit, and yeah, I can't really say anything else about Rocky at the moment. There are a few other things I want to talk about though, because I do have a few other problems with the film. Specifically with this. At the beginning of the film, Adonis goes to his father's gym, and he wants to show off his skills, that he knows how to fight. So he challenges people to fight him by putting his car up online. If you can land a headshot, then you win the car. He knocks out a guy. He calls out someone else, and someone steps up. A guy who knows a lot more about this sport than he does. He beats him. He takes his car, and later in the film we see him meet up against the champion, but the fight never goes off the ground. Now, what I was thinking was and they showed off how this champion has never been beaten before, and he's coming from a broken home. I'm like, perhaps they're gonna make this guy this sort of evil asshole, and just sort of do something a bit interesting with the film by having him be this rival for him. But he just kind of leaves after an altercation before the fight. The fight never actually happens. So yeah. Then of course there's two main fights in the movie. There's his first professional fight against one of the other students at Mickey's gym, where he starts training after he comes to Philadelphia. And I'm talking, Adonis versus this guy Scorp. Something I don't know. What I really like about this particular fight is that it it almost feels like it's in one take. It really looks that way. I mean, I'm not sure if it is, but it was a really cool effect. It was almost all done in one take. Like, there was no cutting. They just had the camera just going around the ring, just filming these two and following each side of the ring until the fight was over. I really like that scene. And another scene I like purely for effects was when they get to the final fight, and after Creed enters, you have the champion enter, and it may just be me being a sucker entrances in wrestling, but I love this entrance. I love how this camera, how everyone lights their phones. It zooms in on the entrance, and then you have this guy blowing fire from a torch and all that. And him just walking, like, it's so well shot and it's so well done. I love it. But let's talk about something a bit interesting about the Rocky series. Music. As you know, the Rocky series is well known for having some of the best, the most recognizable and best themes in all of all time. And something the score in the film it's okay. There's a lot of hip hop and rap in the film. In the film, though I get it. I mean, that's kind of what boxing is nowadays. That all kind of entrance themes and all that are more hip hop or rap or something like that. And but there is the one thing that really stuck out to me though was Creed's own theme, which was sort of a it was sort of a mix of a lot of beat, a lot of hip hop. It felt like it was mixed in some God of War, some parts of some choir and stuff. It was, but it was an overlying theme that I actually could listen to. And then of course we have the final fight, and something I really like about that is that they play some of the original themes for that final round of the fight. Also, there's one thing I actually kind of like about this fight is that after the fight, Rock is that the way the fight ends, the final round ends, is that they give us this final fight, and Creed, Adonis has this British champion almost beaten. They're very neck and neck. He gets in one lucky shot throughout the last seconds. He's down. The timer goes out. But he has to be counted down for 10. He gets up right at the end, and because he was leading in decisions, he wins. It's like he had him almost beaten, but he just lost on time. Which is different from the previous Rocky film, in which, from Rocky 1, for example, where yes, it ended by decision, but in that movie you got the impression that they were very neck and neck. That Rocky just did what he wanted to do. He was able to go the distance with him, instead of just being easy falling. Well, for him, he surpassed what was expected of him, and everyone knows that if he had just had him for 2 seconds, a bit, and that it wasn't really that he didn't care. It was that he was so close, but only a few seconds left. And yeah. And of course, the final scene in the film, it really gets to me. It's like, you have Adonis and Rocky climbing up those famous steps, just looking in over the city, and truly that was really how the movie should have ended, and it gave it a sense of finality. If there is no other sequel after this, I'm okay with this. This is a pretty good ending to the Rocky franchise. If there is another movie, great. I'm all for it. You see, that's really what I like about Creed. This is something I really think. Why I said that take note Star Wars, that Creed did it better, is because this film can stand on its own. That was really the main problem I had with the film. It's like, with Force Awakens, my biggest issues were 1, the copy pasting of the plot, 2, the villains, and 3, it can't stand on its own grounds. But with Creed, it's different. Yeah, it borrows a little bit, but it feels like its own thing, and it feels like a film that anyone can go in and watch and may find some enjoyment in it. Not everyone's going to enjoy this film, obviously. No movie is perfect. No movie is perfect. That is a rule. Hell, I am sure there is someone out there who hates my favorite hates Back to the Future, which is my favorite movie of all time. And I'm sure there are some people out there who dislike some of the most critically acclaimed films of all time. But that's the thing. No movie is perfect. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like it. There's always going to be someone who has a valid argument for saying they don't like it. The world is not just those who like the film and haters, or those who hate the film and those who are delusional. There are reasonable arguments for both sides. But in my eyes, this film is really good. Really good. And in my eyes, from its own standpoint, it's better than Force Awakens. And if I were to count it among the 2015 films, this is probably my favorite. I love Bridge of Spies, obviously, but I also really like this film. So I don't really know if I can count this as my favorite film of 2015, or if it's a good start to the movies of 2016. 2016 is scaring me right now, in terms of films. Mostly because of what's to come. There are 2 movies in particular I'm looking at. One of which is Captain America: Civil War. I'm really looking forward to it because I really enjoyed the previous Captain America films. But I have a sneaking suspicion that something is gonna go horribly wrong with that one, because I've heard a lot of things about the comic book it's adapted from. So we'll see. And then of course there is Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. The more I hear about this film, the more I think this is gonna be a train wreck. It's not gonna be just bad, it's gonna be a train wreck. There's gonna be too much crammed into the film. It's gonna be just ugly, and it's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be good at all. So I'm fully expecting this to not only suck, but not only to be bad, but also to be one of the absolute worst films. But I'm still gonna go see it because I'm a DC fan, and I'm willing to give it a chance. I mean, I liked Man of Steel. Maybe there's a chance, but it feels like they're rushing things with this film. And Lex Luthor. Ugh. Myles, you have my favorite comic book villain of all time, and you reduce him to comic relief with some stupid hair. This is not going to be good. At least he's not going to be. Otherwise, what else can I really say otherwise, other than... Oh yeah, of course. I would like to to talk a little bit about this week, how it is it's a pretty bad start for 2016. When we have two people, both at the age of 69, and both dying of the same disease. That being David Bowie, a guy I don't really know much music from, but I do know a few things. Particularly the song Moon Age Daydream, which is a song he had in Guardians of the Galaxy. But other than that, and the guy from Labyrinth. I haven't seen the film, but I know the guy. So it's sad to see. I'm sure he's pretty okay. So it's always sad to see someone go. And then we have Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, a guy I really like. It's like you have Hans Gruber in Die Hard, for example. I love Hans Gruber in Die Hard. I think he's one of the best villains ever. You have, as much as I don't really like the Harry Potter films, one of the big things I really liked about the films were the cast, especially Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman was my favorite actor in the entire film. I loved his performance, and he was absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, as I mentioned for my Halloween reviews, I loved Sweeney Todd, and I loved his performance as Judge Turpin. Oh man. So I'm debating whether or not I should go see Alice Through the Looking Glass. It's a sequel to the which is a sequel to the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. And I've heard some bad things about it. I've seen some bad things about it, but it's Alan Rickman's last film, and I'm thinking maybe I should go see it just in honor of him. But I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see if I care enough. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. As for what movie I'm gonna talk about next, I really don't know. Maybe I'll go see something later. Maybe I'll just ignore some things until Civil War or Dawn of Justice comes out. I don't know. We'll see as time goes on. I also have university to deal with. So, yeah. Either way, we'll see when we get there. Yeah. And, yeah. In terms of movies, I've had a good start. See where it goes from here.